Hi, I'm Anne Marie with Speak Confident English, and welcome to your Confident English Wednesday lesson. This is exactly where you want to be every Wednesday if your goal is to advance your speaking skills in English and communicate with confidence in any situation. This week we are focused on grammar, and we're talking about gerunds and infinitives. What are they and how do you use them? If you're looking at me right now in this video and thinking, I have no idea what gerunds and infinitives are, don't worry, I'm going to help you out with that. We're going to review what they are. We're also going to talk about why they're so challenging to use in English and what will help you use them correctly so that when you communicate in English and when you're having conversations with others, you don't have to think about it. You can just use this grammar structure correctly. This will also help you in your writing if you write emails in English or business letters. So let's get started, and we'll focus first on what in the world are gerunds and infinitives. Let's look at a couple of example sentences, really simple sentences, to help us understand exactly what gerunds and infinitives are so that we can then talk about how you use them. So here I have two simple sentences. I love to read at night. I love reading at night. Can you tell which word or words might be an infinitive or gerund? In the first sentence, I love to read at night. To read is the infinitive form of the verb. It is the most basic form. If you think back to when you first started to learn English and you were probably memorizing lots and lots of verbs like to be, to have, to do, to want, to go, those are infinitives. They're the most basic form of the verb. In the second sentence I have, I love reading at night. Reading is a gerund, and this one is a little bit more complicated because it kind of looks like a verb, but in this sentence, the verb is acting, pretending to be a noun. Imagine a verb that just is tired of being a verb, so it starts to act like a noun in the sentence. In this sentence, we have read, and we've added the ing to it. And in this sentence, it acts like a noun, so we call it a gerund. I'll give you an example to help you a little bit more. I can say, I love pizza. I love books. I love dogs. Pizza, books, dogs, those are all nouns. Or I could also say, I love reading, swimming, going out with my friends after work. All of those ing words are gerunds. They are the ing form of the verb acting like a noun. So now let's talk a little bit about, well, why is it so complicated? Why is it so hard to use these correctly in English? Now, before we get started, I know grammar can be complicated. It can be frustrating sometimes. So I want you to take a deep breath and just relax for a moment. And don't worry, because at the end of this lesson, I'm going to give you the opportunity to practice so that this becomes familiar to you. It becomes easier for you. The more that you practice, the more natural this will feel, and you'll begin to use these structures without thinking about them. In fact, you probably already do it without knowing that you're doing it sometimes. For example, if I said to you, I enjoy to go to the beach for my vacations. I enjoy to go to the beach for my vacations. How does that sound to you? Is that okay? Does that seem correct or normal to you? If you're feeling like saying no and you think that just doesn't sound right, then I'm curious, how would you change it? What would you do? If you're thinking that you would say, I enjoy going to the beach for my vacation, then you would be absolutely correct. And your instinct, your know-how, that knowledge is there. You're doing it correctly, hopefully some of the time or most of the time. But the challenge is with gerunds and infinitives, there aren't a lot of really clear, easy rules. Instead, it's a little bit like learning phrasal verbs or verbs that are always followed by a preposition. We kind of just have to memorize and become familiar. There are some little tricks and clues we can use to help us, and I'm going to share with you what those are. But Much of the time, some groups of verbs are followed by a gerund. For example, I enjoy going, I enjoy drinking, I enjoy driving. Some groups of words or verbs are followed by infinitives. For example, I want to go, I want to eat, I want to watch. A very small group of verbs can be followed by one or the other, and both are okay. Both are correct. For example, at the beginning of this video, I said, I love to read. I love reading. Love is a verb that can be used or followed by a gerund or an infinitive. It doesn't change the meaning, and both are correct. I know that sounds really complicated. Again, don't worry. I'm going to walk you through this and give you a practice opportunity in the lesson so that you can get familiar with this and get the practice that you need. In addition to following certain verbs, gerunds also follow prepositions. I'll give you an example sentence. I always drink coffee before running to give me an extra boost. I always drink coffee before running to give me an extra boost. Before is a preposition, and it should be followed by a gerund. In this sentence, I cannot say, I always drink coffee before to run to get an extra boost. It doesn't work for us. Because of the preposition, we need to follow it with a gerund. I'll give you another example that you're probably really familiar with. It ends almost every email or business letter, and we also say it to people when we're saying goodbye. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Or I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to chatting with you tomorrow. And you might be thinking, wait a minute, look forward to. There's a to there. It should be an infinitive, right? This is tricky. Look forward to is a phrasal verb. Those three words together, look forward to, create a verb, their own verb, just like run, walk, drink. Look forward to is a verb, and to is a preposition, so it gets followed by a gerund. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Okay, now you know that gerunds follow certain verbs. Again, in the online lesson, you have a huge list of some of those common verbs, and they often follow prepositions in sentences. Infinitives also follow certain verbs, and they follow certain adjectives in a sentence or a question. I'll give you a couple of examples. Do you think it is challenging to speak English in front of other people? Do you think it is challenging to speak English in front of other people? Challenging is our adjective, and it's followed by to speak. Here's another good example. She was nervous to find out about her exam results. She was nervous to find out about her exam results. Again, we have the adjective nervous followed by to find out. In the online lesson, in addition to verbs that are followed by gerunds, verbs followed by infinitives, and those small group of verbs that are followed by both, I've also given you a list of common adjectives that are used and then followed by infinitives. So you can add that to your practice. So now what should you do? You might be thinking, I feel overwhelmed. This sounds like a lot of really hard work. And it's not, because here's what is going to make it very simple. In the online lesson, I've given you all of those example verbs and those adjectives. I've given you example sentences that you can review, and I encourage you to really review them, read them out loud, and then use that example sentence as a base for you to create your own example. The more that you use real life examples that are things that you would say in your real life in English, the easier it will be for you to remember those and just use them naturally when you speak. Then I've also given you different conversational questions that you can practice. You can do that with a language exchange partner or a friend, a colleague that you have at work who also speaks English. If you're in an English class right now, you could use some of those questions when you're entering the class to talk to the teacher or to some of the other students. Or even use them on your own and just practice speaking out loud, record yourself. Doing that again will give you the opportunity to make this structure familiar to you so you don't have to think about it when you're in a normal, everyday English conversation. And with that, thank you so much for joining me. I love having you here every Wednesday, and I look forward to seeing you next week for your Confident English Wednesday lesson.